There's been a shooting.
1-1.
After months of planning.
It was on such an incredibly grand scale, and yet when you're actually part of it, it seems so small and intimate.
The day has finally arrived.
She was very young and very pretty. It was like Wembley Stadium, this enormous roar.
Royal Wedding Bells, Wednesday at 8 on BBC One.
The BBC News now on BBC One with Anna Ford.
Good morning. A suspected mass grave containing about 100 bodies has been discovered by British soldiers in southern Kosovo. Our correspondent Rageh Omaar has just arrived at the site in Kosovo. Rageh, what can you see there? This is a terrible thing for anybody to have to witness.
Well, around 100 feet from where I'm talking to you from, at the bottom of a valley, is a graveyard, and in one corner of it are freshly dug mounds containing the bodies of, we believe, between 50 and up to 100 local villagers. They're civilians and also maybe some fighters from the Kosovo Liberation Army who were killed, according to local eyewitnesses we've been speaking to, around May the 7th and the 8th. They were killed in another area with grenades, and then they were killed off with pistols and machine guns. The Serb forces then took their bodies to this graveyard, lined them up to make it look as though it was just normal graves, and they've just got little wooden headstones with just a date in which they were buried there. But there are NATO forces everywhere, and forensic experts have been called in.
And Rageh, what's the job of the observers now who are there?
Well, they've got to secure the area because it's quite heavily mined. They've cleared a path along which we were able to travel and to see the graves for ourselves. But as I say, forensic experts and experts from the International War Crimes Tribunal have been called in by the NATO forces to actually ascertain how many people, how they were killed. There's talk of children being amongst the dead, and to bring them out and begin to put together the pieces of what happened in what seems to have been a terrible massacre.
Rageh Omaar from Kosovo, thank you very much. The Conservatives are celebrating victory in the European elections, with the results from Scotland and Northern Ireland still to come. They have 34 seats. Labour has 26 seats and the Liberal Democrats 9.
After 2 years in the political doldrums, the Conservatives at last had something to celebrate. And for their party leaders, they thought he might have been Prime Minister if this had been a general election.
I think we would have won had it been general, but we take nothing for granted in future elections.
Do you think you'd win an election?
We have a huge amount of work to do in the Conservative Party. We don't minimise that. But this is a major breakthrough. I think we'll win the next general election.
If it had been last
we'll win the next general election. It wasn't a general election, as you've been the first to point out.
Labour blamed the record low turnout for their loss of seats and claimed the Conservatives would live to regret their rabid anti-European campaign.
There's no triumph in this election for anyone. William Hague's gone further to the right than any previous Tory leader and persuaded only 1 in 12 of people to back a very virulent anti-European campaign.
The Liberal Democrats gained seats from the new electoral system and defended their pro-European campaign.
If the Conservatives draw from this election the idea that they're getting it right on Europe, that will give them some short-term satisfaction. Come back to haunt them.
For the Greens and the UK Independence Party, there was lots to celebrate, their first ever seats in the European Parliament.
And that's it. More news at 5 to 12.
Now the headlines in the southeast. Good morning. The Greens and the anti-EU UK Independence Party have won their first seats in the European Parliament. Oxford councillor Caroline Lucas and Jean Lambert are the first British Green MEPs, whilst Nigel Farage and Geoffrey Titford will take to Brussels their campaign for Britain to leave Europe. Across the region, Labour lost 5 MEPs, leaving them with 8. The Conservatives were the big winners. They now have 13. Police are continuing to question a man about the murder of a 24-year-old single mother from Kent. Claire Streeter's body was found in St Stephen's Park in Canterbury 2 weeks ago. She'd been strangled with her own sweater. Police say the killing was sexually motivated. Final details of what will be inside the Millennium Dome have been unveiled, with just 200 days to go before its opening. The event's organisers have released these computer-generated pictures to show what each of the 14 zones will look like. Londoners are getting the feel-good factor back, according to a report out this morning from the Chamber of Commerce. It says the economy is growing faster than anyone expected, with unemployment at its lowest level for 9 years. Well, those are the headlines. We'll have an in-depth roundup of the election results in our lunchtime programme at 1:30. I'll be back in just under an hour's time. But now look at the feel-good factor on the weather front with Peter Cockcroft.
Good morning. The picture sums up the weather across the UK today. There'll be some sunshine in the south, but we can expect more rain further north. Now, the warmest weather will be in the south, and as it heats up, sea breezes will be set off around the coast. So if you're suffering the sniffles, the beach is the place to be to escape the worst of the pollen levels. As we go through the afternoon, some brighter weather getting into Northern Ireland and across Scotland. The rain just slipping south of the border. It'll be very light and patchy by then. It'll stay across central parts of the British Isles overnight, and then tomorrow some more wet weather will race in off the Atlantic. That'll affect Northern Ireland in the morning, moving across the North Channel into Scotland.